quite an interest in ethnobotany, and every opportunity I get, I'm trying to see if I can explain an ethnomedicinal application in terms of the underlying chemistry. So those of you who have any phobia about chemistry from your years of learning chemistry, put it a bit at bay, because I'm not going to go too deeply into chemistry. There are some molecules on the screen, but not let them scare you. Okay, so the Ethnomedicine tradition of cleansing and detoxification, myth or reality. I think I did hear Angel speak of cleansing as one of the traditions in Trinidad, and I think that is shared throughout the Caribbean, this idea of being placed in a better health state by employing plants in cleansing. And what is this cleansing? So, well, I thought I would have put in this slide, but I see that the others have done as well. Though my generalizations will be applicable to the other Caribbean islands, the study on which I'm basing this was done in Barbados, and very often people ask, well, is Barbados part of Jamaica? And I wanted to clear that up. We are not part of Jamaica. We're small, but we're vibrant, and you can see us right in the corner. And though Jamaicans make jokes about Barbados, that you can go through a front door and end up at the other coast through the back door, but that's not true. Okay. So I thought that I would define some of the language used in this practice of cleansing. We have purging. The interpretation there is to rid the body of waste, and that is even now being used in alternative therapies. Detoxing, the process of eliminating toxins from the body. Cleansing is a general process through which you take the body to remove the effects of illness or previous trauma. And purification, the process of eliminating agents in the blood that may cause harm. Very automatic. I thought it would be interesting to have a look at pre-emancipation uses of plants. And in this table, which is by no means exhaustive, it's simply an extraction of what I found. We see here that the practice was indeed in place, where we can see purging being used, blood purification. The actual term cleansing, I didn't come across that in terms of the historical documentation, but generally we can see the other applications are there for the relief of trauma. You've got a lot of wound healing, getting rid of skin disorders, inflammation, swellings, all indicative of the harsh living during that period. But I see what I was looking for here in terms of, well, was this a practice going way back, and has that been transferred through time? So this was part of a bigger study done in 8 parishes of Barbados. We have 11 parishes, and we thought it important to document modern day usage of plants, and as I said, look for comparisons to what had been done before. But in terms of cleansing, again, this is not exhaustive, but I have extracted what I found to be the families and species that were mentioned more so than others in terms of this practice of purification, cleansing, purging. And what I found was there are 3 families that seem to be the ones that are targeted in terms of looking for plants containing natural agents thought to be efficacious in this process of putting the body in a better health state. And 2 of the families are Apiaceae and Lamiaceae, and you can see the representatives. I think celery parsley is quite known to everybody. Fitweed is also referred to as shadow benny, and it's used as a food item, a culinary item as well. And then Lamiaceae, very aromatic plants. If you take the leaf and you squeeze those essential oils, they're very aromatic, very pleasant. So thyme and peppermint, very knowledgeable, and mosquito bush, as the name implies, that is also used as an insecticide. Thank you. And then the other family that stood out again, the grass family, and those three grasses there, I think lemongrass, everybody knows that, again, a very aromatic plant. So, what is this actual process of detoxification? I felt that I needed to go to the actual site of action where detoxification is taking place. And then I want to see if there's a possible link to what the natural agents are in the plants that have been documented as important in the traditional practice. So in terms of the actual mechanism in our body for detoxifying, that is the liver, and it happens in two phases. And again, I'm not going to be too biochemical here, but what are considered to be material that is toxic to our system is taken through a phase 1, and the products of that are taken through a phase 2, and phase 2 allows for elimination of the products of phase 1 from the body via those two systems there. So what actually is happening in phase 1, we call it biotransformation. The toxic material, which are really molecules, my favorite things, are converted into forms where they're less harmful. And for the chemists, that's things where you may modify by adding on particular groups for certain sites in the molecule. In phase 2, because these compounds are not very water soluble, they're then converted by a process called conjugation into compounds that can be readily eliminated in an aqueous medium, such as urine. So the question is, we know the practice is in place. Is there qualitative evidence to support the practice? And is there quantitative evidence to support the practice? So here are my molecules, and again, don't get too concerned. What is common about those three families of plants is the presence of a group of compounds referred to as polyphenols. Polyphenols are characterized, and I believe that even though you didn't like chemistry, when you were doing it, you can see that there's a common feature. What is the common feature in these molecules? If I may ask. Okay, I'm not trying that. The common feature here is that O and H. That is what makes it a phenol attached to the ring system. But what is special about that O and H attached to a ring is that is a property on that molecule that can probably act in assisting the process of cleansing the blood. So here we have a group of molecules that are found in all three of those families of plants that seem to have the potential, at least qualitatively, to assist the body in terms of this act of cleansing, purification.
Is that more likely OH like in the DNA instead of O2, H2, would it be oxygen?
No, no. We're talking about that O and H onto the ring system. So a little bit of biochemistry again, but very simply treated. I mentioned phase 1. So there are a series of reactions that take place in that process of transforming the toxin into something that is less harmful, but a product of that biotransformation. And this is what is happening naturally, not looking at the involvement of those plant agents. Free radicals are a product of that biotransformation, and we all are hearing about the dangers of free radicals. Free and they're radical, so they can go in there and do things which most of us may not want them to do. So that is a possible target or site of action for these molecules that I am looking at. Phase 2, where we now make the compounds that have been formed water soluble, so we can eliminate them, and also get rid of those free radicals because we don't want them around. We don't want them to be free. So based on a lot of researches out there, because polyphenols, these compounds with the rings in OH, and the subclass of flavonoids are receiving lots of attention, and most products nowadays you will hear about them being free radical scavengers. They're protective, they can hinder aging. A lot of facial products will be touting that, and hence I'm trying to say that these phenolic compounds do have protective activity, and it does suggest that they could be involved in those phase 1 and phase 2 sites of detoxification. So I'm saying qualitatively, there is evidence to say that those 3 families of plants are producing agents that could function chemically in the process of detoxifying material. Okay, so don't let these molecules scare you again. I'm just showing what a radical is considered in terms of chemistry. It's an agent that has electrons that are looking to become stable themselves, and in order to become stable, they go and attack our biological molecules. So how does the free radical scavenger work? It goes and it traps that agent, converting it into something that is less stable, less radical, less able to cause harm. So again, this is what I'm saying here, that those polyphenols or flavonoids, again the compounds with the OH on the ring, can function in that phase 1 stage where the free radicals are generated and they can be eliminated from the body. So that's the qualitative part. It seems that the plant material qualitatively qualifies as a detoxifying agent, but quantitatively is very important. Even though you may be consuming the flavonoids or the polyphenolic compounds, are they getting to the site of activity? And that is a big problem. And bioavailability is defined. I'm going to read the rate and extent to which the active ingredient is absorbed from a therapeutic entity, that being our plant extract, and becomes available at the site of action. So here is where the problem comes, in that there's a lot of evidence which is suggesting that the bioavailability of these ring systems that I've been talking about is limited, because they themselves get subjected to modification when we consume them. So this is a strike against the quantitative availability of these agents in the plant material. And I'm going to skip the rest of that chemistry. So quantitatively again, what is the content of the plant material in terms of providing types of agents that I'm speaking about? And on this table, I have representatives from 2 of the families, and I'm showing for a particular flavonoid, and that is just one as an example, that they are indeed quantitatively representative in terms of supplying the necessary detoxifying molecules. So these molecules can all function to trap those radicals I'm talking about, and if you consume 100 grams of celery, then 83 milligrams of that 100 grams is going to provide you with that particular flavonoid, which can act to trap radicals. And you see that parsley is particularly potent in terms of providing those radical trapping agents. And I really should not have put up this one, but I'm highlighting here the complexity, because this is another issue, that in plant material we find these agents in many varied forms, and the complexity of the form in which we find them, apparently is also contributing to their bioavailability, them getting to the site. So this is another strike against whether quantitatively they do represent agents that are indeed functioning in those phase 1 and phase 2 actions of detoxification. But this is very variable in terms of what the research is indicating. So what are the issues of efficacy in terms of these families of plants and what they biosynthesize that can indeed be functioning to assist in detoxification of the body? So the first one is the one I just mentioned, that there's great complexity, and the pathways through which they get to the active site can be interrupted based on that complexity. The fact that before they get to the site, they themselves can be modified, so that, again, quantitatively puts the question there. And the third point, that there's a lot of variability. Plants synthesize hundreds of these compounds. Which of them are actually reaching the active site is a big question. And the fourth point, some evidence is indicating, well, that they function even though bioavailability seems to be limited, that it could be that they're indirectly signaling for activity involved in detoxification. But I'm saying that there's not a lot of clarity that I was looking for to see if we can definitely identify that these flavonoids are involved in that phase 1 and phase 2. They may be involved in other systems. So in summary, I do believe that the traditional knowledge is of value. I know that in Barbados, there's even a practice where just before school children are allowed to go back into their new term, they are subjected to taking some very awful things that many of them complain about, but parents are adamant that this is important so that when you go back into school, your body is in a position of stasis, so that you're not going to pick up on those infections when you're meeting other kids or whatever is out there. I also think that it's important when we consider the biocultural link, because language and communication in terms of knowledge transfer has helped to maintain the biodiversity, the plant biodiversity that is involved. So this is a value of the tradition, and it may not necessarily boost the idea of whether they're really working to help with detoxification, but indirectly they've got that particular value. And I'm saying that I happen to believe that these ring systems are involved in the detoxification process, but there's further exploration needed to verify that. So, myth or reality, I happen to believe that it is reality. It has very important value within the systems, and I just think that we need to look a little closer at how those molecules are actually functioning. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.